Your expectations are hurting your relationships. Expectations are something that the more I've gone throughout my life, the more I've learnt to remove, to not pay too close attention to them. This is a practice to not only best help myself internally, but also to help my relationships. Unconscious expectations in particular can be really damaging. They're expectations, obviously, you're not aware of. They're expectations that you may have just accumulated over time, maybe through what you've been taught throughout your parents and family relationships, romantic relationships that you've been through. There may have been expectations heaped onto you, or you've learned to anticipate your partner, or you've learned that you should have anticipated your partner. And this may have left you with learnings about a relationship that may not even be fully accurate. They may just be things accumulated over time from both healthy and unhealthy relationships and dynamics. The unconscious expectations are the ones that you have to be particularly dialed into. You have to be particularly aware of because they are the ones that typically do and can do the most damage. They're the ones that eat away at your relationships or maybe even your own self-esteem without even you knowing. Expectations in general are okay. They're not exclusively bad or toxic or damaging. They can be amazing things. They can be ways of getting and becoming more disciplined. They may be expectations for people how to treat you. You may have set that boundary on this is how I deserve to be spoken to and I'll do the same in return and things like that. Often it's not as black and white as that. It's not as spelt out, but they are things that can happen and be dialed in over time. And you guys have expectations of one another. You expect them to be on time and vice versa, or to at least let you know if they're running late, things like that. Expectations can prepare us for things in life. To use the more obvious examples of expectations, it can be you're going to a place, you're going to a country or an environment, and these are the things to expect. They can be used to prepare you for that situation. You would pack accordingly. You would know what to expect from certain cultural dynamics, what to look out for, what to be wary of, what to enjoy the most. Expectations can surprise us as well. We may not even know that we're holding these things or that other people are expecting things from us. And sometimes that lesson is a difficult one. Often they're a difficult one because we're being hurt by something we never saw coming. And I guess vice versa, because we may be carrying these things. These unconscious expectations are often built up over time. They're built up over our experiences, our teachings, our learnings from family, friends, teachers, coaches, relationships, friendships, and it can teach us a lot. It can teach us a lot of good. It can teach us great things that you want to recreate. And it can teach us things that we never want to happen to again, or we would never want to recreate if we were in their shoes. For example, do you remember a time when your parents expected way more of you than you did? When they expected you to go an extra mile or perhaps do something that you didn't agree with, but they nonetheless expected you to do it? That you were going to come in and kind of act how they would want you to act, regardless of if they're showing you how to do that or not. If they're leading by example in that way, or if you're just meant to take the initiative. How did you react to that? Was that something you met with, hey, that sounds amazing, I'm totally going to do that, and I'm going to love it? Or did you rebel and do the opposite? Did you do the opposite because they expected of you and because it was an expectation thrown on you that you didn't approve of? How do we react to these things? And how do those in our lives react to them when we do it to them, whether it's consciously or unconsciously? Perhaps these expectations you grew up with are the more stereotypically toxic ones where you're thrown into a competition that you didn't realize that you were doing. For example, why can't you be more like your brother? Why can't you be more like your cousin or your sister or whatever else? Why can't you be more like this person? And they're comparing you. There's that expectation of, hey, they're doing it. You should too. You should too, regardless if this is even an interest point or a passion of yours. These are expectations. And again, I'm not saying all of this is necessarily bad, but these are expectations that can damage us at times. These are the expectations that can get in the way for you. Sometimes these expectations are completely out of left field or they're adjacent to us. It's kind of in the ballpark of what we're interested in or what we're trying to do, but sometimes they're completely thrown on us. They may be expectations that aren't even applicable to us. There's stuff that we have no inclination to do, yet somehow when we don't do it, it's a failure. Now, these can be expectations externally or internally, because we can get out our own case as good as anyone, maybe even better because we know ourselves better. Sometimes there are expectations that are not only completely out of left field in the fact that it's something you're not interested in, but were never communicated to you. They were never communicated to you by anyone, by coaches, teachers, family, friends, etc., relationships, romantic relationships. You had no idea that this was even an important thing to try or to do or to think of or to act out of. Yet when you didn't do it, it was a failure. It was, well, why can't you do that? Why couldn't you do this thing? Oh, you didn't even bring me flowers. Oh, you didn't even think to say this. Rather than an open communication of, hey, by the way, in these times, can we have each other's back? Hey, can we be there for each other at these times? Not everything will be explicitly said and owned and spoken about. However, we also can't expect other people to do the things that we haven't even asked them to do. But often that can happen through unconscious expectations. These are the unmet expectations and the unconscious expectations that do so much damage in relationships. We often carry more of them than we realize. We often carry them in a way that we can carry these burdens for years. It's almost like we're carrying a wound for that period of time too, where it's like, oh, it wasn't enough. I never showed up for her. I never did these things. But they may never have been communicated. They weren't communicated until we didn't do the thing that we weren't asked to do. But we can carry that like we've hurt someone deeply. And often their expectations are the things that hurt them. They'd be like, oh, I'd really love someone to do this. Oh, you should have done the extra mile in this particular way. But that's their issue that they can either deal with or they cannot deal with. That's up to them. But that's not up to us to fix. We can try and help. That's all we can do. But we carry these things too, and they're so important to look out for because they do damage internally and externally. If you combed through your family relationships, through your friendships, through your group chats, through your conversations and romantic relationships, are you met with these expectations in those dynamics too? Do you meet others with expectations also? Is this something that you're throwing out there as well, and vice versa? Because odds are there would be expectations coming back and forth between you. How do you enjoy those dynamics when they come up, when these expectations come up? How do you handle that? How do you deal with it? How do you feel when you're the one who's expected to do something or you get it wrong when you didn't even realize? You didn't realize that you were supposed to tiptoe around that person or not bring up this particular thing. Even if you brought up an issue that they're sensitive about in a respectful way or in a way that was completely innocent, that might still be the wrong thing in their eyes because you're not supposed to talk about that or don't bring up that person or whatever it may be. But you don't know that. You're not coming from that space. But yet you've done the wrong thing and you're potentially a rude person or a bad person in their eyes. At least in that scenario. And that's something you can't control, but that's their expectations hurting their relationships and hurting you as well as themselves. When it comes to these unconscious expectations, relationships are the most common way to see them pop up. Yes, you can see them for yourselves and in other situations, but in relationships, the dynamics, whether it's work, whether it's family, romantic, anything like that, you can see where they pop up in different ways. You can see how they both affect you and that other person or people. As an example of these unmet and unconscious expectations, let's say you and your partner are going through a rough patch and you're doing everything you can and you feel like you're going above and beyond, but then you're getting annoyed at them and you can't figure out why. But you do feel like you're doing more around the house, you're doing more with the kids, but they're not doing enough. Now, that might be the case, that they're not doing enough. However, are you communicating your expectations, what you would like them to do? Are you guys communicating those unconscious expectations? Or are you just annoyed that they didn't do the dishes, but you didn't ask them? Or are you annoyed that they didn't clean up? Are you frustrated internally by something that was never spoken about, that was never agreed upon? If you've spoken about it and if it was agreed upon and it still didn't happen, sure, I get that. You can be frustrated or annoyed or irritated or anything like that. But is it something that you could have communicated and you didn't? Because that's on us. We have to do that part. We can't just get annoyed that they didn't do the thing we didn't ask them to do, we didn't tell them to do, or they didn't agree to do. That's an unrealistic expectation, and it's an unconscious one. So it's so important that we look at it in our lives where it's like, where does that come up? And how can I take ownership and responsibility for that? Whether it's to communicate or to do it ourselves too. Maybe it's just something that we need to do. If it's so important to us, but it's not important to them, we can't make it important to them. We can't make our expectations important to other people. It's not something we can do. We can't force that upon them. In your relationships, you can communicate, but you can't force compliance. That would not be a good thing to do. That would be potentially an abusive thing to do, to force compliance. Or it would be in a toxic relationship because you're forcing compliance. That's not something that we can do. But we can communicate, we can take ownership, we can make things very clear. With our children, we can say, guys, I want these dishes to be unpacked from the dishwasher by 2 p.m. And the kids know that that's going to happen. Otherwise, we're going to get annoyed at 2 p.m. and go, guys, why haven't you done this? You haven't done this and done that. And they don't even know that you want them to do this. You have to be clear with them. You have to prime them. Hey guys, 5 minutes till TV's off. Hey guys, 5 minutes until bedtime. All right, guys, 2 minutes till bedtime. All right, guys, last minute. All right, guys, that's time. Rather than springing it on them and going, why aren't you guys in bed? That's never worked. That doesn't really work in my experience. And it's not met very well in the fact that the kids are often thrown off. They're kind of thrown off guard, but also unregulated, deregulated. They're more deregulated because they've just had this thing sprung on them. They might be distracted, they might not be aware, but if you haven't communicated it, we can't expect them to anticipate us. You can be all the things that are great and helpful. You can be articulate, kind, understanding, but you can't make them get on board. You can't do it. You can only own that you've tried, that you've done your best, that you communicated. And that's how you get around this. However, this can lead to you feeling a bit helpless, that you've communicated, that you've done all these great things, but nothing's changed. Nothing's really different. It's kind of the same, but at least you've communicated. That's okay. There are parts of life that we don't have a say over. And one of them is other people's lives. But by communicating, and in communication, we're doing our part. You're doing what you can do. Hopefully when your partner's ready, for example, they'll meet you there. And they'll share that with you and they'll go, you know what, that's fine. Look, I totally get what you mean. It will make the day run easier. Let's do it. That's what we're going to do from now on. You can have these sort of communications. However, until that happens and until they're on board, but this is something you want, you'll have to do it. You might have to fly solo with some responsibilities for a time if, as a team, it's not going to be picked up. Now, obviously, maybe our expectations are out of line and unreasonable. But for this episode and for the general teaching, let's say that they're not, because otherwise we're going to go into every single nuance that we can't possibly cover. But some expectations do need to be uprooted. Sometimes the ones that we have aren't going to work. They don't fit. They're not reasonable. Maybe they're the ones that have kind of developed over time and they're more in the toxic end, or they're more in the unhealthy end, or the codependence end of thing. And that's a very, very common one. Codependency is something where this can come in, particularly obviously in relationships. But for the sake of this episode, let's not focus completely on that side of things. We'll just focus on what we can do about it. Something that's helped me a lot over the years is don't expect anything and you won't be disappointed. That does sound bleak. As soon as I say it out loud, it does sound bleak. I get it. I hear it completely. However, it is more empowering than it sounds. Don't expect anything and you won't be disappointed. If you don't expect anything of them, you can communicate your side, but you don't expect them to necessarily, that's it, they've picked up what I've said and they're going to run with it. That's what I'm referring to, is that you can do all these different things, but you don't have to expect that they've made the same decision as you, that they've made the same choice as you, that they're going to come to the party, that they're going to meet you face to face, eye to eye and go, yes, this is exactly what I'm doing. You don't have to expect that. And it's probably best you didn't. But this means you've done everything you can do. However, you're still going to do the other things in your life and not have these expectations on other people getting in the way of that. An example of this in my life is I have a couple of friends that are more unreliable than others. They're close, long-term friends, people that I really like, people that I've always enjoyed hanging out with. And they're good, genuinely good people, and they do great things, which is why we're still friends. All relationships have issues, all relationships have problems. However, in this particular relationship, sometimes they bail on plans last minute. They'll cancel last minute. They'll go, yeah, man, that sounds great. And then at the last minute, they'll pull the pin. And this is a particularly big point of frustration for me because I can't stand that stuff. That bugs the living daylights out of me. I'd rather hear that way earlier when they had originally decided to not do it, to not come to the spot, whatever it is, so that I didn't expect them. I wasn't waiting around, and I didn't kind of put the plans around us doing something together. Now, I've done my part in this. I've talked to them about this. I said, hey man, like you can't bail like this, or you can't give us such little notice. And I've talked to them about, please don't agree to do it if you don't intend to do it. And please give me lots more notice next time. And it's usually met with, yep, sorry man, no problem. I'll do that next time, no worries. And for the next few times, yes, they'll be dialed in. But then often it'll revert back to what they've more commonly done. We often go back to what we're best at, to what we've done the most. That's why it's so hard to learn new skills when we've learned the opposite or we've practiced the opposite for so long. Often it's a habit. It could be an addiction depending on what it is, but it's something that we've just practiced more. So we're going to be better at it. So in this situation, I've changed my expectations. Instead of expecting them to do something that I know they're not typically known for or that they're great at, I no longer wait for their plans or for them to confirm to plans. In these situations, I now invite them to do things that I'm going to be doing anyway. I'm already going to be there. I'm already going to be doing this party. I'm already going to that gig. I'm already going to this show. That's it. I'm going to this bar. I'm going to this brewery. I'm going to this event. I'm already going to be doing those things. So to invite them along, it's a bonus. I'll say, hey man, I'm going to a brewery at this time on Saturday. If you want to join, that would be great. Be great to see you, man. No worries. And if they can make it, awesome. And if they can't, no problem. I'm already doing the thing that I wanted to be doing anyway. I'm not canceling. I'm not losing out on the thing that I wanted to go to. I'm still doing that thing, but might not be with them. And I noticed when I did this in these relationships, I wasn't angry or bitter when I saw them again. I was okay. I wasn't secretly or really angry inside or just kind of a bit pissed off when I saw them. I was fine. It was all good. There, the gig was great. The brewery was awesome, whatever it was. It's not something where I'm like, yeah, it was great, man. Too bad you couldn't come. I'm not like that anyway, but that can happen. That's how you can feel. You can feel kind of pissed off at them. You can kind of feel annoyed, and rightfully so, but it's not hurting me anymore. It's not hurting me internally because my expectations were hurt, because I expected them to come, I expected them to be there, and they didn't. Unconscious expectations ultimately hurt you. They hurt your feelings and they hurt relationships. When people don't meet these expectations, you can become bitter, resentful, vengeful, spiteful, and you can carry that with you not only in that relationship, but in other relationships to come, be it romantic, friendships, etc. Or into your day-to-day life. You can go to the shops and you're still feeling bitter or angry or hurt, because that's what happens. It hurt us, and we carry that if we don't deal with it or if we allow it to hurt us. An important concept to remember is if I expect someone to act, do, or be different than what they have always shown me to be, is that a fair expectation? Am I most likely the one to get hurt because they didn't meet an expectation that they're not good at yet, they're not practiced at? Why would you expect someone to act completely out of character just because you've expected them to change their behavior overnight? If I've done something for 30 years and you ask me to change it tomorrow, I'm probably going to be better at the thing I've done for 30 years. So you can be patient with people and you can see whether they're trying or not, and you can ask them if they even want to change that. So be conscious if you're expecting someone to act out of their normal behavior or act completely out of their character. To act completely the opposite of how they've always acted or what they're known for or what they've practiced with you. Because if you do that, if you expect them to suddenly change their life overnight, you're bound to be hurt or disappointed. Expect of them what they've shown to you. That's the expectation. You can ask them to do differently. Maybe they'll try and maybe they're keen to do something different, but you don't have to expect the world of them. If they do want to meet that expectation, if they do want to try something new, Don't expect them to be perfect at it. Don't expect them to nail it first go. You don't need to do that, because if we expect them to be perfect on their first attempt, that's also an unrealistic expectation. Expect them to not be perfect. Expect them to take time to be learning a new skill or a new practice for them. And odds are they're not going to be good at it initially, because they're people just like we are. We're often not awesome at things initially and immediately. It takes time. Look out for your kids, that you're not throwing these expectations onto them, that you're not being unrealistic with your expectations onto your kids. They're kids. Obviously, there's different ages. Obviously, there's different responsibilities. But we need to at least communicate these responsibilities or the expectations that we do have for them. It's not a pendulum swing of either expect them to do everything or nothing, because we don't want them to do nothing with their lives, to not try things, to not put themselves out there, to not be a responsible person that's trying to do something cool, to do something that's fun for them, or to do something that makes life easier or better for them or others. Tell your kids clearly what is expected of them. Don't speak to your mother this way. Speak out of kindness. Look at people when they speak to you. Those sorts of things, clearly outline it to them. Don't throw it on them after the fact. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, and you didn't even tell them what to do. You just kind of expected them to anticipate you, which is never going to happen. And if it does, it's usually out of fear. It's usually a fear response. If they're like, what's dad going to say about this? What dad's going to say about that? It's usually a fear response. And we don't want that. We don't want our kids to be afraid of us. We want them to know that we're our team, to know that you're their teacher, to that you're their ally, that you're on their team, that you're trying to help them. I say to my kids with their schoolwork and the things they're trying, be it new or otherwise, is that I don't expect them to be perfect. I don't expect that. I expect you to try your best. That's an expectation I have on them, is going, hey guys, did you try your best? Is this everything we could have done? What could we do next time? What could we work on? And that's an expectation that they're aware of. That's an expectation that they're growing up with, is just try your best. It's not something that I'm results focused on, but I do want them to try. And that is clearly communicated to them. If expectations aren't unconscious anymore, and instead they're communicated, you control the factors that you can control in this dynamic. It gives the other person an opportunity to meet you there, to meet you halfway, to understand one another. This is what's important to them. This is what they're looking for, and vice versa. That's a place that you can meet. You can meet in that middle and share that. And if you don't share the importance of it, you can still share in the understanding of it. You can still share in the understanding that this is important to them and this is important to me. We don't quite align on that. Maybe that's an expectation we can't get right. Maybe that's something that isn't going to fully align, but we can respect the other person's importance on those things. This opportunity to meet people there in these conversations can lead to more understanding, but it can also lead to more questions. Why is this so important to you? What's the issue there? Why is this hurting your feelings? It can lead to further understanding and then closeness there as well. Healing, closeness, and clarity. Healing, closeness, and clarity it can lead to. So it's best if we communicate. It's best if expectations go said, not unsaid. So don't let them be silent. Make sure to communicate them and watch your relationships get to levels that they've never been before. I hope you liked this episode. I hope it helped. All the best. Please check out the other episodes. There's a lot there now. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. What else? Pinterest. I've even started a Pinterest, which is pretty wild. I'm just chucking it everywhere, basically. And YouTube, even on Rumble a little bit, but I'm a bit behind there. And obviously Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find this. Have a listen, share it with people that you think would help. And if you would like any counseling or coaching support, hit me up on my website and we'll have a chat and we'll go from there. God bless, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.